Welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli. That's Danny Cannell. That's Bud Elliott. I'm Chip Patterson, coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and all across the 24/7 Sports Facebook network. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe. Smash that like. Come and join us in the chat because, dadgummit, it is the best time of the week, 11 a.m. on a Thursday, which means we are gathered together to give you our locks for the weekend. And this is the last time that we will have a full slate. Well, it is a slate. It is not as full as all of the other ones, but championship weekend does give us nearly a dozen games to lay out for the final week of our competition against each other and you and the dentist and everybody across the globe as we round out the regular season with conference championship games and a few makeup games. Shout out to you, New Mexico State, going for that 6th win. Shout out to you, Buffalo, going for that 6th win. And, of course, all of the conference championship competitors that we are about to get to. But we begin, like we always do, with a brief recap of the week that was.
Let's skip it. Let's just skip it.
Oh, now you guys want to skip.
Yeah. Listen, Danny Cannell was above 500. Danny Cannell was the only one above 500, so we are going to give him his moment. But Tom, it was a 4-7 week. The wins included Texas -8.5, the Purdue Indiana under 54.5, the Coastal JMU under 54.5, the Southern Miss ULM under 51.5, losses on double Latifah loss, Florida State -9.5, and Vandy +14.5. Bar fight loss on Iowa State TCU. Ohio State Michigan under 57 is a loss. Lock fight loss on Notre Dame USC, and then also the UCLA Cal under 60 and the Wake Duke over 66.5. 4-7 on the week has you at 64-66 for the season. What were the big takeaways from rivalry week?
I'm happy it's over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are no takeaways. It was a terrible week. I mean, I'm happy I got 4 right. I thought I was going to do better. There were like Ohio State, Michigan went a different way than I think most people have expected. Iowa State was never even like that was over quick. Vandy was over quick. Just, yeah, nothing went the way I was thinking it was going to go last week. Let's move on.
0-9 for Chip on the week.
Is that
0 wins.
Is that a first that's ever happened?
I believe so. Like, I think we might have had a couple 0-4s in bowl weeks or like when we would do MAC episodes, but I don't think in an actual locks pod anybody has ever gone winless before this week.
Loss on Florida State and Vandy, loss on Iowa State. Those have already been mentioned. A lock fight loss on North Carolina -6.5 against NC State. A loss on Cincinnati -2 against Tulane. A loss on the Auburn team total under 13.5. A loss on the Apple Cup, Washington State +2. A loss on LSU -9.5. And a loss on South Carolina Clemson under 52. And gentlemen, the thing was, not only were these losses, but these were losses by like 2 touchdowns per game. I mean, just like entirely way off the mark. Almost up and down. Florida State obviously does end up winning, but they don't end up covering that 10 points. That might have been the closest that I came. Maybe if North Carolina had gotten a touchdown win when it went into overtime, but missed chip shot field goals prevent that from happening. So 0-9 for the week drops me for the first time all season below 500 on the year, 51-55 on this season. So one last week for Chip to try and get back above 500, 0-9, 51-55. But Danny,
hold on. I just want to point out 2 weeks ago, you were 49-39.
2 weeks ago, I was 49-39, and I have gone 2-16 in the following 2 weeks.
I gave you the chance to skip this part, Chip. You didn't take it.
Can you let me know what you're on this weekend just for personal?
Yeah, that's the point of the show, bud. We provide these picks. You take the information and you go make your own decisions of what to do with it. But yeah, 2-16. So either it's all going up from here or this kid's gonna get worse. Tune in next week, find out how it goes. Danny, 5-4 on the week. You pick up some lock fight wins. Lock fight win on USC -5.5. Lock fight win on NC State +6.5. Lock fight win on TCU -9.5. Unfortunately, right there with us on the defeats for Florida State and Vandy. You take a lock fight loss to Bud on Louisville. Then you've got Mississippi State +2.5 in the Egg Bowl. That's a win. Another loss on Ohio State -7.5 against Michigan, and a lock agreement win on Texas -8.5. This now 7-4 last week, 5-4 this week, but still 54-69 for the season. Feeling good, at least finishing strong, you know?
Yeah, the sprinkles are my thing this year. I'm just going to have everybody point to the sprinkles and just try to distract them from this one. I was hoping your 0-9 would distract from my total on the season. It's hard to get up here and celebrate a 5-4. Like, it just doesn't feel right. At least it's better than the disaster it's been, and I'll take it, but I need to finish strong this weekend.
All right. And Bud, a 4-4 week, wins on the Florida State team total. Tulane +2.5, Kentucky -2.5, and BYU -6.5. Took a loss on App State, took a loss on North Texas, took a loss on the Ohio State, Michigan under, and Oregon -3. 4-4 has you at 77-61 for the season. Unless we get super exotic, I think that is the regular season title. I mean, unless you get super exotic and we get super exotic, and Bud scores, we score 1 billion goals and you score negative goals, and we have 40 red cards or yellow cards or discipline rules. I think that's the regular season locked up. But what were your notes from the week as we look ahead to championship weekend?
Yeah, I know last week we talked about how the volume is going to most likely decrease at this point in the season because everybody has a general feel, I think, for how good these teams are. You're basically betting, situations, trying to understand if teams need the game, if their heads are still in it, and injuries, specifically here, quarterback injuries. Some of these I would bet again, even though they lost. I mean, North Texas closed almost 17. Rice, I had a feeling they were going to be down to their 4th string quarterback. It was a 4th string true freshman, and North Texas played like ass. So I took the L on that. I think the process okay there. Ohio State, Michigan was a terrible bet. I mean, they both scored points on each other. Michigan scored a ton of points. That's one of the ones I want back. I didn't really think I had a way of knowing that Oregon's run defense would be that crappy, but Oregon State found a way to show me. So I took the L there. The other loss I had, App State outgained them by 170 yards and lost outright. They couldn't execute in the red zone, and their defense just fell to pieces, and they fired their DC. So I guess 2 I really want back, and 2 that I don't know, thinking about what I knew preseason or pregame, I'd probably fire again.
Yeah.
Loss wise, was Tulane really that much better than Cincinnati? No, I think you have to bet it though when you think that Bryant's going to be out and it's going to be the backup, just like the line's going to move.
That was a value play for Bud Elliott. All right. I will happily flush week 13 and begin to look ahead. So, gentlemen, y'all ready to lock it up?
I hope so.
Since 2005, the under in games between service academies is 40-9-1.
Give me an over in this one as well. A little 2-for-1 special.
I was in sicko last week. Y'all were watching videos. I was live betting the hell out of UL in Kentucky.
My blue plate special 5-star locks are coming.
5-star master lock. Lock it up. These locks.
I'm living and dying every point, every cover.
Bud wants a point of order that I had a winning record prior to COVID. So, right?
Yeah, I think
Should be
pre-COVID you were 51-46, which is a respectable, nice year.
Right. Brain fog, whatever. Hey, listen, you're either hurt or you're injured, and I'm here, okay? I came, I dropped them. They weren't right, and we're going to make them all right this time. Okay, we begin on Friday. We've got the Conference USA Championship game on the mothership CBS Sports Network. That is UTSA and North Texas, 8.5-point favorites. The Roadrunners are, of course, the game that everybody especially in Columbus, we'll be watching is USC against Utah. The Trojans, as I'm looking at it right now, down to 2.5-point favorites, over under of 67.5. And if you got a lock on Buffalo and Akron as the Bulls try to get that 6th win, we'll hear it here too. Who wants to get us started with Friday action?
I've got a lock for Buffalo and Akron. It's the most important game of the week.
Buffalo
minus 11. Akron has absolutely no reason to want to play this game. They can't get anything out of it. They won their first MAC game last week. They beat Northern Illinois, so they've got that motivation out of the way. They've got nothing to earn here. Meanwhile, Buffalo's trying to get to a bowl game. That's the only reason they've rescheduled this game. Buffalo minus 11.
Anybody else gonna get in?
I don't have a sicko mode pick for this week. So, like, Tom, could you take an honorary sicko mode?
Yes.
Like playing the music for me?
Mode. Let's go.
I'm a little bit lower on some of the teams in the bottom of the Sun Belt. If things go wrong, they could be like UMass UConn. That's kind of like sicko mode of a sicko mode.
Bulls, mount up.
Let's go.
Let's go.
All right. Anybody get anything on Conference USA?
I can't do it. Like, I want to bet UTSA here because I think North Texas is just limping to the finish line. I mean, that, like, playing a close game against that Rice team that was down 3 of its top 4 corners and, you know, down to its 4th string quarterback and receiver McCaffrey didn't even play is pretty shameful. But UTSA is so banged up, and I have a hard time figuring out if these guys are going to be healthy week to week. Last week, I almost got that UTEP money line home, by the way. I don't know if you guys caught that plus 625. They had a huge lead. Frank Harris rolled his ankle. I was like, all right, well, they're already locked up the home field advantage for CUSA. Maybe they'll sit Harris for the rest of the game. I was kind of hoping they would, just out of my own altruistic wants for his health, of course. And he comes back in, I think because it was senior day, and like wanting to finish out the home slate with a win. They stormed back, but they had a couple more guys get banged up in that game, and I just don't have a good feel for who's actually going to be on the field for UTSA. So I'm passing it. I think there's only one way you can play it, unless you guys think that North Texas was playing possum, but they couldn't because Western Kentucky won the game. So like they couldn't afford to lose that game to Rice. Maybe they were looking past it a little bit, but I don't know. Like I have a hard time buying that.
Under 69.5.
Lock it up.
Yep. I'm just, spoiler alert, I am locking up every damn game this week.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Give me one too. Give me the under. Let them children sing. I'm with. I was gonna take North Texas because talking to Jeff Traylor, he was talking about how banged up they are, but I don't trust either team. I do think you could see the offensive struggle here. Championship mode, usually they get a better defensive effort. Frank Harris is a beast. If they do end up winning, it goes the way Bud does. I think they'll be able to hold Austin Nani and that offense in check. And Seth Patrell's a pretty good defensive mind. I think he'll slow down UTSA. I think that would have to be his kind of game plan. So I think he'll slow the scoring down. So I like the under too.
All right. Couple of locks on the board for the under.
Every game. I'm going to hold you to that.
No, I have one right here on the sheet.
All right. Well, then let's take it to the Pac-12 Championship game. What are the plays? What are the ways we're attacking this one?
I'm going to take USC.
All right.
Just give me USC. I'm going to lay the points. On the Wednesday show, if you guys have been enjoying kind of the little more in-depth breakdowns we do, because on the Locks Pod, we try to cover so many games. Wednesday's kind of cool. We can pick out a couple and really discuss them more fully. I just look at what Utah did in this first ball game, and I feel like it was a great effort, and I'm not entirely sure how sustainable that it was. I mean, do we really think their tight end is going to catch 16 balls again? Are they going to be that damn good in the red zone? Utah is also just a total wagon at home, and on the road and neutral, they are not as good of a team. But most importantly here, since Cam Rising, Utah's quarterback, got hurt, he has not been running the football effectively. And in that first game, he had 11 rushes for like 60, and a good number of those were for first downs or to set up like manageable fourth downs. And if he's not able to run I have some concerns about Utah's offense here, even though I don't love USC's defense. So I'm going to go ahead and lay it with the Trojans. Give me the 2.5.
Lock agreement. Touched on it a little bit in yesterday's show. I agree with a lot of what Bud just said and mentioned there, but also I just think that when you look at what those two teams were when they originally played, USC is a better team right now than it was in that game. Utah's not. And again, it's not in Salt Lake City. Utah is banged up. USC's offense has still been fantastic. And while the defense is not what you would consider one of the country's elite, the defense has improved. Like, it is getting better as the year goes on. They're getting more familiar with the system. You're seeing a lot less dumb mistakes that you were seeing a lot of early in the year. So I think that when these two play again, USC is going to have a much easier time of handling what Utah has to give it at a neutral site with an improved defense and just being healthier and better at the moment.
Which is why I'll take the under in this game. Give me the under. Yeah. Second time around, you've seen a lot of schemes. You make a lot of adjustments on the defensive side of the ball. I think both will. No Tavion Thomas. He had that injury. He's announced he's skipping the rest of the season. He's done. He's preparing for the draft. Cam Rising, the issues that he's had. I don't see him going, for another 400 yards plus passing. I feel like I want to get on the side of USC with you guys, but I'm scared this whole perfectly set up 4 teams is just going to blow up in our face, and we're going to have to argue about, is it Bama? Is it Ohio State?
It's not Bama.
It's not Bama.
I mean, Danny,
I have 2 bets that I would want to take the underdogs in, and this is one of them, and there's another one. If 2 of them lose, that's 2 spots they could hop up in. I don't think it should.
Alabama's not getting
it. I think you would need USC to lose and for Kansas State to blow out TCU. Like not just a TCU loss, but just an actual, blowout.
And even
if you want to get a piece of Utah,
this show,
take. There's some. What are we dealing here? 31.5, 32.5 for Utah team total.
You were saying Utah team total over.
Yeah, like if you wanted to take a piece of USC and you like the under already, it just kind of logically follows to take Utah team total under. Which Tom is either looking at World Cup or he's logging in to bet Utah team total under.
No, I saw watching the World Cup, and the guy whose my name is currently after just hit the post from about 5 feet away.
Nice.
Okay. Gimme goal, he blew.
A Fernelli? Oh, Romelu Lukaku. I got it. Go Belgium. All right. So we are on the board with USC -2.5 for Tom and Bud, and the USC Utah under 67.5 for Danny. Turning our attention to Saturday in the noon slate, we go to the Big 12 Championship, where TCU in the aforementioned Big 12 Championship, where TCU is a 2.5-point favorite, over under of 62. I don't have anything on the board. I'll go ahead and get this started. I think that this is an over. I know that we talked about seeing each other again and being able to see each other's schemes, but I also think that this is a matchup advantage where Kansas State's going to be able to make some plays down the field through the passing game. And I think that TCU, that, as Tom mentioned earlier in the week, does a great job when it does get scoring opportunities of turning those into touchdowns. We've got a favorable number here at 62. It was 61. It is starting to creep. What?
Chip, 61.5 if you want the over.
All right, 61.5. I do want the over. And so, give me that over in the Big 12 Championship game.
Have we had a middle yet this year?
I don't think so.
Let's fight each other on this because they're 62.5 at circa. So I'm going to go ahead and take the under.
All right, let's go.
Fight.
I've been a believer in defensive coordinator Joe Gillespie's defense all year for TCU. I think Kansas State has a really good defensive line and should be able to impact TCU's offense some here. And TCU has to go out thinking we need to eliminate or at least limit the explosive play, which might make the clock run a little bit more in this one. Kansas State leaning on Deuce Vaughn quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and fight Chip here with the under. And hey, man, I hope it lands 62. That would be that'd be incredible.
As I said, I have a lock on every game this week, and I think that it makes sense that the two guys in first and second place team up on the guy who just went 0-9. I'm with Bud. I'm on the under. It is a bar fight. You're going down, Chip.
Bar fight.
Fight. Fight.
Let's go. Bloodied already. You can't hurt me more. I'm the most dangerous guy at the bar. They threw me out and I snuck back in. Just picked up a pool cue. You don't want to mess with me. Danny, you getting in on the Big 12?
Yes, I'm not getting on the bar fight. I think they're going to go all Beth Dutton on you. If you guys watch Yellowstone, you know the last episode. I'm going to go Kansas State. I hate it. I don't want it to happen. I will root again. If we get a TCU 1-point victory, that'd be phenomenal. This game scares me for TCU. Feels like, they got things back on track. They're hot. But so is Kansas State, man. They are a better team than last time when they blew that lead with quarterback issues. Will Howard, more consistent now. He's got more experience. He can run. They can run Deuce Vaughn. This has spoiler all over it. And then what happens? So I'll go ahead and take Kansas State. Might see him later in the show as well.
I mean, it's big sprinkle right there.
Yeah.
All right. We go to Ford Field in Detroit, where Toledo is a 1.5 favorite against the Ohio Bobcats, over under of 55. Tom, are we riding the wagon?
Ohio is a wagon.
Damn right it is.
Listen, it's not just that Ohio has covered in 9 straight. It is covered in 9 straight by an average of 20 points per game. Okay. This has been 14 points per game. It has been a very, very easy time of things, just blindly betting Ohio every week. I got it earlier in the week when it was Ohio +4, because I don't know who the hell set that line, but it has quickly moved down to 1.5, 2 points most everywhere else. The Bobcats are the better team. Listen, we see it time and time again with this Toledo squad. It is continually the more talented roster in the MAC. They recruit better than everybody else, but they are underachievers. Every season they underachieve where they're supposed to be. Ohio is a team that has been overachieving for 2.5 months. Give me the Bobcats +2.
Yeah, we not only are riding the wagon, but we do not like the stench of the way that Toledo finished the year. 7.5-point favorites against Western Michigan, outright losers, 20-14. Final home game of the year against a Bowling Green team that admittedly is a bowl team this year. They lose that one as well, 42-35. Funky Rockets. We go with the wagon that has been able to bounce back even after losing its star quarterback and continued to cash these tickets.
Do we think DeQuan Finn's playing for Toledo?
That's up in the air. No, I think it's not certain.
Yeah, he left the game again and was back in the boot. So I'm if he's out, I really think Toledo is a poorly coached team. I mean, they're the one team in the MAC that has actual resources, and their roster is almost always better than everybody else, and yet they don't win. And I'm like, how in the world does that staff get mentioned for jobs elsewhere? They were in the mix for the USF job. Based on what? You guys have the best players and the best facilities in the MAC, and you don't win it. But Finn is a difference maker. So if he's healthy and in, I kind of want to bet Toledo, but I don't know what it's going to be today. This is going to be just you put the alert in TweetDeck or on Twitter. First beat writer to tweet it out. I'll bet it if he's in. If he's not, I'm gonna leave it alone.
If he does play, he's just going to get hurt again as that wagon rolls over him.
It's possible.
Danny, you want to come dance?
I don't know. I was thinking about it. I was thinking about a different play. I was thinking about going ahead and getting you on the little bar fight against you guys. Let's go. I'll fight you guys.
Toledo?
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
Give me Toledo.
Fight.
No Curtis Rourke. Got a young, inexperienced quarterback. I kind of want the under, too, because of all these quarterback issues. Go ahead. 2-for-1 special. Under.
2-for-1 special.
Yeah.
On 55.
They haven't had him for 3 weeks.
Yeah, and they've been just fine. The wagon keeps on rolling.
All right. 2-for-1 special for Danny Cannell right there. Listen, we don't even have a line right now. New Mexico State, best of luck against Valpo. As you go. I mean, there is a spot in a bowl game for them, right?
That would be a sicko mode.
Yeah, I do not have a bet for that game because it's not on the board.
It's not on the board at this moment. All right.
Valpo's not played since November 10th.
New Mexico State.
New Mexico State. Blind.
I don't care what the number is. Lock it up.
All right. And what about the Sun Belt Championship? Troy gets to play host as they are also 8.5-point favorites against Coastal Carolina. Over under of 48. Bud, I don't know if you got a lock on it, but you sure as hell get first word. So what's the handicap? What is the view of this game for your beloved Trojans?
I would probably not bet Troy here. I'm not taking Coastal, but to me, Troy is a team that I want to lay single scores with typically because they are so defensive based. In the last month or so, and really starting with that South Alabama game, which kind of gave them the tiebreaker for the West Division of the Sun Belt, they've converted to a very heavy run team, and the passing game has not made progress really at all. In fact, they were kind of struggling with App State last week to the point I was like, okay, I did not hedge out of my Troy position because it's not App State, excuse me, Arkansas State last weekend. And then they ended up winning by 25 or 30 or something like that because they had a crazy fourth quarter. I don't think Coastal's run defense is necessarily all that bad. They played the best team in the Sun Belt last week by far in JMU, but JMU is not eligible to win it, right? So Coastal, I'm kind of curious. They played a lot of guys last week, man. I'm wondering how much did they hold back in addition to Grayson McCall, who we don't know if he will play. Jamie Chadwell, the head coach yesterday, said that if the game was today, he would not play, but they will see if he can practice enough this week to give himself a shot to go. But I think Coastal's run defense is not that bad, right? Like I go back to the App game. They were more physical than App's offensive line, which other coaches in that league seem to think is a good offensive line that App has. And Troy kind of beat him up front, guys. Coastal kind of beat up App's offensive line up front. I think Coastal's kind of live here, and I trust Chadwell to come up with some creative stuff. But McCall makes that engine go. And if more than any game this weekend, that is the one that you need to be waiting to see what if he's playing and what he looks like in warmups, because he is as valuable to that team as Caleb Williams is to USC, right? Like the drop off is a touchdown, in my opinion, like a full touchdown. And there's too much uncertainty for me to bet that.
Why wait? Why not just jump on it now? No, Coastal Carolina plus 8.5. Lock it up. That's too many daggone points. This game is going to be tight. This game is going to be low scoring. It's going to be incredibly competitive. And I think that this is going to be a case where we've just got some value on the Chanticleers. So, yeah, I'm going to take Coastal plus the 8.5.
I feel bad for you, Chip, because you've been on such a rough stretch here the last couple weeks. I'm going to bring you some good luck. Give me Coastal as well.
Let's go.
I did talk to Coach Summerall this morning for Troy. What a dude, man. That guy's going to be getting hired here pretty soon somewhere else. Phenomenal job he's done turning that program around. Maybe he wins the game, but I think, and especially after listening to Bud too, I'm going to say Grayson McCall figures out a way to play.
Under 48.5. I also think it's going to be low scoring, but I don't want to take the spread because if Grayson McCall doesn't play, there's a part of me that wonders, like John Summerall trying to lead Troy to a conference title. You look at Coastal, McCall's banged up. Jamie Chadwell's name's been popping up in coaching searches. I feel like this one could get sideways, but I like the under better than anything.
All right, there we go. Well, coming up on the other side, we turn our attention to a big old spread in Atlanta, as well as the battle for the top-ranked group of 5. And Michigan goes eye to eye with the spoiler makers. It is the rest of the Saturday slate with our locks. Next.
We got 16 dead bodies in a buried shipping container. This is a serial killing network.
To solve this case, we need all eyes on this.
Let's get to work.
This is the biggest case we've ever had. If there's something to find, my people will find it.
I have never stopped trusting my team. We're just getting started.
So far on the board here as we break down championship week, Tom's got the Kansas State TCU under 62.5. He's got Ohio +2, USC -2.5, the North Texas UTSA under 69.5, Buffalo -11, and the Coastal Troy under 48.5. I'm on Kansas State TCU over 61.5, Ohio +2, and Coastal +8.5. Danny's got Kansas State +2.5, Toledo -1.5, Coastal +8.5, the North Texas UTSA under 69.5, the Toledo Ohio under 55, and the USC Utah under 67.5. Bud so far got the Kansas State TCU under 62.5 and USC -2.5. Got a couple bar fights out there. Chip taking on Tom and Bud on the total in Kansas State TCU. Tom and Chip taking on Danny in Toledo against Ohio in the MAC championship game. Some lock agreements. Bud and Tom on USC -2.5. Chip and Danny on Coastal +8.5. And Tom and Danny on the North Texas UTSA under 69.5.
You know, that's a wild bar fight because both of those games are going to be going on at the same time. So at once I'll be fighting Chip with Bud while simultaneously fighting Danny with Chip. I don't know how that's going to work.
It's happened before. Maybe not with locks, but we've been at odds with each other in complex and complicated ways. It's strange bedfellows we make here on the Cover 3 podcast. Which means we turn our attention to the SEC on CBS. The SEC Championship game, Georgia against LSU in Atlanta. The same matchup that we saw back in 2019 when Joe Burrow lit up the Bulldogs defense and on his way to a Heisman Trophy and the LSU National Championship. Jane Daniels ain't Joe Burrow, but he has been a very effective quarterback for the Tigers. And Georgia in this position is a 17.5 point favorite, over under of 51. What are we taking? Just lay them.
Lay them with the dogs. I talked about it yesterday during our SEC preview. They have taken days off against some of the lesser teams that they could sleepwalk against and beat anyway. In Georgia's big games of the year against its top competition and rivals, it has steamrolled everybody. It's going to steamroll LSU in the SEC Championship, lock up the 1 seed, pick the Peach Bowl for the semifinal, and that's the end of that. Sorry, LSU. You've had a very good season, one to be proud of, but you are not nearly as good as Georgia is.
I'm on the under 51. Score that I've got in my mind is 31-17. I think that LSU has enough playmaking to be able to eventually get a few scores and make this a little bit sweaty, but kind of seems like the game that Georgia's going to be able to mostly control throughout without having to get too creative. So I'm going to go under 51.
Neither.
I don't hate that either. Chip, why would you take 51 when I can get you a 52?
Let's go. We'll take it. There's a lot of different ways that that can cash to. Georgia either like totally dominates and then just turns it into a coronation, taking all the air out of the ball in the second half, or Georgia's offense messes around, ruins good drives with turnovers and mistakes, and it ends up being a little bit sweaty. But I do not see LSU and Georgia engaging in a shootout, so I will be going with the under.
I'm with you, but I'm going to go ahead and take the first half under. I get a 26.5. There's something scares me about the second half. Start throwing it around, pick sixes, defense is out there, or they score. They get the backdoor, kind of hits the over. My inclination is to just lay them with Georgia as well, but it's a big number. Are they resting guys second half? Again, if they do, I think that provides some points in the second half potentially. We'll go first half under.
Danny has 2 winning weeks in a row, and now he's out here taking first half
unders.
Let's go. Watch him win. Here we go. Let me get the that's some other ones. I'm good.
Bud, you got
do props? Can we do props? Let's throw them in there. What is Bud? You're all over this usually. Jaden Daniels in a boot early. What is the expectation for him?
I think he's playing. I mean, if Daniels was not playing, I think somebody would have figured it out by now LSU is well covered enough. There's enough people down there. And I think this thing would be 20. So my guess is he's playing. I don't know how good he's going to be, but I would be surprised if he's ruled out of this one.
I mean, and I don't want to like question anybody's motivation here, but at this point in your career, you're Jane Daniels. You got to give it a go. You don't.
Yeah.
You don't make this transfer. You don't have the sort of career.
He's coming back, right?
I don't know.
Does he have another year of eligibility left?
I would guess so.
COVID
Well,
rashes my brain up for all that.
He's in the same class as Rattler, right? So and Rattler's got a year.
He is.
Yeah,
He was older.
Everybody's got eligibility, I assume. Just like
did we all get an extra year? Can I go back?
no,
So
I've
Daniels was high school
NCAA
class.
violations.
So he was class of 19, right? So 19, 20, 21, 22, he gets the COVID year. Even if he played all 4 years, he still has the COVID year if he wants it.
But they've got what's that dude's name? Walker Howard?
Yeah, the dancing.
Yeah.
Wait, was that the one who Kelly danced with? I thought he danced with the tight end that then was like, all right,
went
I'm
somewhere
good.
else.
I'm
Listen,
sorry,
Brian
man.
Kelly's dance card is full. All right. He is,
I mean, it is. I saw
LSU
this.
has all the SEC money in such a tiny turntable. Like it creates awkward situations. You got dudes grinding up on each other. Like just spend that SEC money, get a little bigger spinning disc, and
The
everybody
good
can have their
news
own
is
zone to dance in.
maybe if we wasn't allowed NIL, he might have gone just to try to get paid. Now he can stay and make some good money and try to increase his draft stocks. This is one of the good examples.
The chat says he danced with both, by the way, so you're not wrong.
I'm just thinking of Brian Kelly twerking now.
He's got some, like a decent backside. I don't know if he can make it move. I feel like Brian Kelly can, if he can get some jiggle to it, he gets probably a pretty good twerker.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Just
Everybody, especially if you're not watching and you're listening later, Brian Kelly mental image twerking, go.
Bang. Twerking with the family.
Also, couple of games all going on right there at 4:00. It'll be a multi-screen Saturday, even as we've got a lighter slate in New Orleans. UCF and Tulane going down for the American Athletic Conference Championship. Now, we will remember that this was a game that earlier this year, UCF won 38-31. So in the rematch, what are we expecting? Well, the odds makers have the Green Wave as a 4-point favorite and an over-under of 57. Who's got a lock in the action?
We know Tom does.
UCF +4.
Yeah, that's right. We go Knights.
Yeah, I mean, I took it in the first one. I'm taking it again. My concern in the matchup the first time was Tulane defensively has been very good, but they have not been very good against the run. Well, UCF's not trying to throw the ball very often. That's why Plumlee in that game ran for like 10 yards a carry, finished over 180 yards, a few touchdowns. I think that we saw in that matchup that Tulane was able to exploit UCF's defense too. So I'm not as confident in the Knights getting the repeat win, but I definitely think they're going to cover.
Yeah, let me go ahead and make sure I hit it so there's no confusion. I am also on UCF. I kind of like the idea that they were just farting around after beating Tulane a couple weeks ago, outright lost to Navy. Then things got way too hairy than they needed to get against the Bulls in the war on I-4. I think that Gus Malzahn is going to be able to go and make this a very, very close and competitive game. I like taking the points. Think UCF is maybe even worth a little bit of a sprinkle. We'll see a little bit later on.
Give me Latifah.
Oh, yeah.
I love seeing. I mean, Chip looks kind of like an '80s rapper with the hoodie on, and like it just looks good. So I like seeing him move. John Rice Plumlee, maybe not 100%, but the fact that Gus Malzahn is actually telling people he might not be 100% tells me he probably is 100%. He's ready to go. Yes. And even if he doesn't go, they've got experience at backup, so it's not that big of a concern. It opens up a little bit more in the pass game, so I like him too. Also, don't know what it was going on with the Willie Fritz to Georgia Tech. Announced, expected, then it's drawn back. You wonder what impact that could have on the psyche of a team, the preparation of a team, preparation of a coaching staff. So throw that in there too as another reason for UCF.
I mean, I don't know that Plumlee's playing. I'm not saying he's not, but like the Gus quotes that I saw were his mindset is to play. So we'll see how he does each day. Like they had USF beat easily. I mean, they were up 28-0. Then he pulls the hammy, and then they almost lost the game. I think you can run on Tulane. I don't think you can throw on Tulane very well. And Keene is not a good runner. I mean, he's more of a thrower here. So, like, if Plumlee plays, I want UCF. If he doesn't, I want no part of the Knights. I can't do it.
Noted.
There's a couple here that I'll be waiting for and firing on game day when we see the warm-ups.
Grayson McCall is the other one that I know you've mentioned right here. Keeping an eye on.
You've got a 17.3 unit lead. You could take some risks. You're just sitting on it right now.
Yeah, but I am sitting on it. But like, I didn't have a lot of edges last week. I mean, I think I had.
I'll go. Let me get the under as well. A little hedge just in case John Rice Plumlee doesn't play. And even if he does, I think they're still going to want to run the football. Again, kind of the second time you've met. I think the defenses make adjustments a little bit easier. I'll take the under as well.
All right. In the Mountain West, we go out to the Smurf Turf in Albertson Stadium, where Boise State is a 3-point favorite against Fresno State, over under of 54. Who's got a lock for the Mountain West Championship game?
I do.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jim.
All right. I'm going to lay them with Boise State because let me check. Fresno State. What conference does Fresno State play in?
Mountain West.
Okay. Yeah. Boise State thrashes Mountain West opponents. It's what they do. They're not good in non-con. Then all of a sudden you fire your offensive coordinator and you just go on an absolute tear through conference play. Boise State's the better team, and I think that shows up. So I'll lay the points with the Broncos.
I think Boise State has feasted on some kind of iffy defenses recently, and there's some 3.5s out there. So I'm going to go ahead and take the 3.5
with Fresno.
With Fresno, yeah.
Oh,
Fight!
That's wait, is that Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter? That's Mortal Kombat, right?
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. So down forward backpack high kick, Liu Kang, Dragon Fatality here. All right. I think Hayner's just so much better quarterback than Taylor Green is. I just trust them to score enough points on Boise. I do. When I watched Boise last week, and I had Utah State, and that was the most ridiculous bad beat backdoor that I've ever seen. I mean, they have a chance to win the game with 90 seconds left as a 17-point dog, and then they give up a 91-yard run when Boise could just kneel it out, and then they throw a pick six to lose by 19. So, but when Boise starters were in there, Utah State did not do very much. I still don't think that it's hard to contain Hayner, man. Like, that's a guy I think is going to play in the NFL. Cropper's legit. I just think they can score enough to cover the 3.5 here.
I'm with you.
Let's go.
Fight!
Ooh.
Bar fight again.
I'm with you on Jake Hayner, too. I think this is somebody who wants to finish his career out with a bang. Could have left, could have gone back to the Pac-12 after leaving it the first time, transferred from Washington. First time they played, he did not play. The quarterback threw 2 picks, 0 touchdowns. Taylor Green, I think the future is bright, but on a big stage like this, I don't know. He's got to rely on his legs. He's had a 91-yard touchdown run last week, set the record. I think Fresno State will be able to shut that down, make him a little bit more one-dimensional. And I don't know. I'm kind of with Bud. I don't think Boise State's like back all of a sudden at the top of the Mountain West in a stratosphere all their own.
Lock war.
1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a lock war. Lock war. Lock war.
You poor deluded fools. Boise is going to smoke Fresno.
Whoa! Oh,
work them.
Oh man.
Jake Hayner will not survive this lock war. Jake Hayner has never survived a war. He's like, what's that movie with Tom Cruise where he dies every time and then just keeps coming back? It's him and Emily. Anyway, whatever that movie is, Edge of Tomorrow. That's Jake Hayner's life. That will be Jake Hayner in this game. He will die 1,000 times and Boise will cover with ease.
With ease.
Yeah, with ease. Let's go.
Danny, what was your record last week?
5-4.
Not 0-9, right? Okay.
Not 0-9. That's right.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm riding with Danny on this one.
Chips do.
That's right. Come on. All right. 2 games in prime time. let's start in Indianapolis, where Michigan is a now 16.5-point favorite against Purdue, over under of 52. Who's going to dance with Michigan and Purdue? I mean, spoiler makers. Can I get a 17?
Yeah, they're 16.5 and 17.
All right, yeah. Give me Purdue plus the 17. I like what Danny said, that just there's something about that, playing inside, baby. When you got that passing offense, when you got some good wide receivers that, get a little bit of a rhythm. I mean, they had to play in 38-mile-an-hour winds against Iowa. They've had to just play in some gross conditions. So yeah, give me just like nice temperature controlled situation. Purdue finds a way to at least make it interesting and give us something to keep an eye on in the primetime slate.
I'm on the over. 51.5, I think, is the best number I can get. I just think, you go back to last year's game, Michigan won 49-3. So it's like, I think that Michigan is going to be able to move the ball very effectively against this Purdue defense. But I also think that Purdue offensively can do some stuff against Michigan that maybe other teams haven't been able to do. So I don't think they're going to get completely blown out of the water here, not like Iowa did last season. I think they can get into that 10-14 range, and I think, Michigan could put up 40. So
lock me up on the over.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Well, it's got so many sounds.
Charlie Jones is a stud. We talked a lot about Jeff Brom pulling out all the stops, figuring out a way to, make this close. I think this could be a backdoor type cover, maybe some touchdowns late. Also, did you see the story about Aiden O'Connell? Really tragic. He's playing with the death of his brother. It's one of those stories you'd love to see something special happen, but ultimately I think it's going to be too much to overcome. But I think he's going to want to have a big performance. I think he gets it, but it's going to be too much. But I'm going to take the over here on the total.
But nothing.
No, anything over there, Bud Ferentz? You're just going to punt from the 34.
Bud Ferentz, yeah.
I've got one more coming. I do.
That's my favorite.
Bud Ferentz.
I just like Michigan has not played that way to that level all year, basically, that they played against Ohio State. And so I wouldn't bet Purdue with your money on this side, to be honest. For me, it's Michigan or nothing, but I think it's nothing. Right? Like I Purdue's just good enough. I think Brom's a really good coach. Do we know? Never mind. I don't know what Aiden O'Connell's headspace was like the last couple of weeks when Purdue's offense was really kind of lacking. Like the only decent game Purdue has on offense for the last month was the Illinois game, and they have 3 bad ones. So I don't know what exactly was going on there. Obviously, it's tragic, and our hearts go out to him, right? But I don't know what Purdue is right now. I think I know what Michigan is, and I know what Michigan's best is, and I don't know if Michigan's going to play its best because they've only done their best one time, right? As far as hitting explosive plays like that,
So many engineers filling up Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. The train.
Is anybody going to be in Atlanta? No one, right? I mean,
we're
Georgia fans, I guess.
Oh, you mean like fans? I thought you were asking about us.
No,
LSU fans probably already booked when they beat Bama, though, to be honest, or especially like when Bama beat LSU. Like they've booked. They weren't not anticipating them losing to A&M. So I think you'll see LSU well represented there. It's been what, 3 years since they've gone?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be I think the stadium will be good environment for sure. LSU and Georgia don't play enough. Like they occupy the same tier, but they don't play enough so that when they do play, it's always an event. Like when Georgia played down in Baton Rouge back in 2018, it felt like a real event. They played in the SEC Championship in 2019. It was, felt like a real event. I think the fans will be excited to get in there and make a little bit of noise, give it a good environment for sure. And finally, in Charlotte, we will be uptown for the Clemson Tigers against the North Carolina Tar Heels. The Tigers are currently 7.5-point favorites, over under of 63.5. It's time to empty the clip. Which sides are we taking? Tar Heels. Yeah. Yeah.
To what? Just
Plus
Tar
7.
Heels, you're saying the name, or?
Yeah, Tar Heels plus 7.5. And 2-for-1 special. I'm also taking the over 63.5. It's a North Carolina football game.
I'm going to lock agreement with Chip here on this over, but it's 63 for the over. So
okay,
that's what I'm into. Clemson, I think we'll have some important guys out on defense. I think that North Carolina's offense, or rather defense, has been sneakily iffy over the last couple of weeks, and we just didn't realize it. It's not a good effort to allow NC State to score like they did. And Georgia Tech's offense is still hot garbage, right? And Zach Gibson, we have a lot of games showing he's a bad player, and we have one game showing that he's somewhat okay, and that was when North Carolina beat them. The only game that they looked somewhat okay in was Virginia, and Virginia's offense is just horrendous, and it had been so all year. Obviously, tragic what happened there. So I'm not trying to bag on Virginia. I'm just saying the guys North Carolina lost against Pitt, they have not really faced a decent offense since, and I think this is the game that comes back to bite them, right? I think Clemson can push them around up front. I think Shipley can go nuts. I think whoever plays quarterback will throw the ball effectively. And I think Drake May will have a day against Clemson's defense as well. So I think this game's played in the 80s. I like over quite a bit.
Latifah.
Look at Tom expanding the board and encouraging me to expand my board, and yet he's all anti-expansion. It's hypocritical, buddy. I'm just telling you.
Well, I'm just trying to generate.
Episode?
I just want to get more viewers for the episode by having more picks on it to keep interest going late into the season.
Yeah, bigger, bloated, more episode. Yeah, greed is good.
I already told you. I already
you
told you what's going to happen in this game. Clemson lay the 7.5. They're going to pull away. Will Shipley's going to rush all over this North Carolina defense. DJ Uiagalelei is just going to lumber up and down the field with those ugly long strides. And afterwards at the podium, Dabo's going to call out all the haters, and he's just all the rest of y'all. And he'd say, this is our quarterback. I love this kid. He puts his body on the line every single week for the Clemson Tigers and brought us another ACC title.
And he's going to buy a UCLA jersey when DJ plays for UCLA next year, right?
Maybe so.
But if you had to put odds on it, do you think he's a better chance DJ plays for UCLA or DJ plays for Clemson next year?
I hope
because
everybody it's UCLA
somewhere out west,
which would be great for all parties.
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
Did you guys see that the title game's now going to be on January 20th? By the way,
love it. It's awesome. Let's go. We don't have a whole month of January like dark winter. We can have brightness and we can have games every week.
Congrats on extending your.
Those of us that do recruiting did not have a dark January, but so this could be extremely busy. I think I'm now anti-expansion.
Thank you. Yeah, see, these are the things I thought about ahead of time.
Yeah, I was thinking about ruining Christmas.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah. Christmas for me is already tough because like we have signing day this year is like the 21st.
I know. Spending all of Christmas and all of January and. I was looking at the bracket. If it were this year, a bunch of teams are going to play 17 games.
Free advice to any recruit who's doing like a hat ceremony on signing day. Instead of hats, do elves on the shelf.
Ooh.
And
live animals is always a nice touch.
Yeah. Reindeer. Get like 8 reindeer and put hats on each of them.
Yeah. There you go. I like it. All right. Before we get to money line sprinkles, actually let's go ahead and jump into the sprinkles. So, what are our money line sprinkles for championship week?
I told you I want to give my one. And I got to get out of here. Kansas State, they're definitely going to screw up. At least make things interesting. I don't want it to happen. It's going to happen. And give me Coastal on the money line. Ooh. Grayson McCall playing the role of hero. And give me Fresno State. Those are my 3 money lines.
Kansas State Wait, I thought you said you were just going to give us one, and now you gave us three.
Yeah.
This is discipline.
I got
Discipline Danny.
I'm taking home the sprinkle title. You guys.
See it.
All right. So Jordan, for record keeping, best on K-State is 120. Best on Coastal is 275.
Oh, you got And I got a 135 for Fresno.
And then I got 145 at. Actually, don't know what book that is. There's a 140. I recognize that book. That's a real book. I can't go with 145. I have no idea what that abbreviation is. So it's probably like fake. Or if it's not fake, I'm very interested in knowing what it is. So I can.
It's a hedge fund located in like Costa Rica or something.
Oh man.
All right. Tom, what are the sprinkles?
My sprinkles this week, very, very limited card. Just Ohio plus 110.
Oh yeah, I guess I should be on that one too. I was gonna say UCF, sprinkle UCF, but then also I'll add Ohio because I'm also on them to cover. So clearly I would like them to win as well. So Ohio and UCF as my sprinkles.
Yeah, I like UCF on the sprinkle. I think that if they play their A game, I think their A game's better than Tulane. So got to find some way to bet this game. For the show, what is that? Plus 160, I think is best out there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then K-State for me as well, plus 120.
Kansas State. Don't make, they're going to make me sweat this all the way into Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Are we all just kind of rooting for our easier weekend?
Well, I thought about the total work hedge, which is like Utah, Kansas State. You know, if it's going to be like crack your brain open, frustrating, at least go and out with some wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
if I don't want to make any promises, but like if Alabama does make the playoff, I'm going to be so upset. Like if Alabama does and TCU does not.
Yeah. What would be the number that TCU would have to lose by? Or is there not a number? It's just like the Hendon Hooker situation with Duggan.
Oh, like he gets knocked out and
that's the only way I could justify it. Like, honestly, I mean, even if TCU gets beat decently, I still think that their wins are better than what Bama has this year.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
If for some reason, like any team that loses a quarterback, a star quarterback is going to be reconsidered, obviously.
It's in a tweet the other day. The only thing that Alabama has is the name Alabama. That's it. It doesn't have it has one top 20 win. It has not won its division. It is not winning its conference. If it gets in, it is just because the committee saw that little curvy A and the name Alabama and said, oh, that's got to be one of the 4 best teams in the country.
And unlike other years where they didn't, win the division, it's not a case where they have the same record as the second place team in the SEC East too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're sitting there.
Who they lost to?
They're like 4th in the SEC, to be honest.
Yeah. They're 4th in the SEC, but they'll be considered 4th in the country, which tells you everything you need to know.
All right. Enough on that. We'll have Saturday night and Sunday to be able to break all that down, because yes, Saturday night instant reaction show as usual, right around 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. Sunday we'll be coming with some reaction to the college football playoff semifinals when they are announced. Both reaction to the rankings themselves, but also a little bit of a early preview of the matchups as we get things going. So be sure that you are subscribed on YouTube, subscribed to the audio form as well. To review, Tom is on Kansas State TCU under 62.5, USC -2.5, Boise -3, the North Carolina Clemson over 63, Ohio +2, the North Texas UTSA under 69.5, UCF +4, the Michigan Purdue over 51.5, the Coastal Troy under 48.5, Georgia -17.5, and Buffalo -11. Chip has, and do take note, whether you're going to follow because it's turning around or whether you're going to fade because it's getting even darker, Here's what I got. Kansas State TCU over 61.5, Coastal plus 8.5, Boise -3, North Carolina Clemson over 63, Ohio +2, the LSU Georgia under 52, the UCF +4, Purdue +17, and North Carolina +7.5. Danny's got disciplined Danny. Largest card on the board. Kansas State +2.5, Coastal +8.5, Fresno +3.5, Toledo, Ohio under 55, Toledo -1.5, North Texas UTSA under 69.5, UCF +4, the Michigan Purdue over 51.5, Clemson -7.5, the LSU Georgia first half under 26.5, the UCF Tulane under 57, and the USC Utah under 67. Bud Ferentz has the Kansas State TCU under 62.5, the USC -2.5, the Fresno +3.5, and North Carolina Clemson over 63. Lot of action on the board. Here's what I'm looking at. Let's start with the easy ones. Lock agreements are USC -2.5. That's a lock agreement between Tom and Bud. Lock agreement on Coastal +8.5 between Chip and Danny. Lock agreement on the North Texas UTSA under 69.5 between Tom and Danny. And lock agreement on the Michigan Purdue over 51.5 between Tom and Danny. A lock fight, mano y mano, on North Carolina Clemson, Chip's on the Tar Heels, Danny's on the Tigers. And we've got a couple bar fights. First on the Kansas State TCU total, Tom and Bud on the under, Chip on the over for Kansas State TCU. We also have a bar fight on the MAC title game, Chip and Tom on the wagon that is Ohio, Danny on the Toledo Rockets. And finishing out with a bang, a lock war in the Mountain West Conference Championship game. Tom and Chip on Boise -3, Danny and Bud on Fresno +3.5.
Woo! Look at that. Tom gets back in second place. He buys a new house plant. Looks great.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Thank you.
That's cool. I mean, I'm guessing because where it's in the sun, it's actually real, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with 9 plays, I'm 9 plays on the board. I need to go 7-2 to finish above 500. Here we go.
That's doable.
7-2 week.
Just to hammer home the washness a little bit more, my latest purchases are this house plant, and then what you can't see right outside my window is a bird feeder. Just so you know what I have become.
Oh man, is it squirrel proof?
Yes. Oh God, of course.
Okay,
It's gotta be
yeah.
squirrel proof. And
Yeah.
by the way, the squirrels are looking pretty chonk these days. I was walking the dog this morning. There are some thick squirrels out there right now.
Yeah, I got some squirrel proof, and it's called a 22.
The Brian Kellys of squirrels out here right now.
Oh, man.
All right. Anything else before we get out of here? Is Coach Prime going to take a job on Sunday?
I mean,
Yeah, should we take some bets on that?
I'm
What
doing
kind of odds can we get on USF?
I'm doing an HQ segment today about this very thing. So yeah, do you think it's going to be USF?
I'm not sure that it will be USF, but I think that if USF can make the money at all similar to what Colorado offers, that he should take USF, because if you look at how he's built Jackson State, everybody's going to point to the recruiting of Travis Hunter, right? And that's a great get. But he also had a ton. I mean, I went through the roster this morning just to be prepped in case this happens. A lot of D1 bounce backs to the SWAC, which is a really bad FCS league, right?
Mm-hmm.
So his level of talent that he has assembled there in the SWAC, which he deserves credit for getting, is like so much better than what the SWAC has. That, I mean, I don't know how good he is as a coaching coach. I know he's a damn good recruiter, obviously, to get that to come there. But I think if you're going to replicate what he's done, you could do so at UC or USF, because you're able to tell all these kids from the state of Florida, where you're also from, by the way.
Right. I was going to say Fort Myers native.
Come back to USF, right? Like, come back. You transferred away to Wisconsin. You transferred to NC State, right? You went to Syracuse. Didn't work out. Come back here. Colorado transfer standards are actually, like, I don't know how much the audience knows this. They're sneaky tough.
Yeah, they're
Colorado
very
has
tough,
trouble getting people in. And so Colorado cannot be rebuilt via the portal to the same extent you could do with USF.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I kind of think USF's a better gig if they can get the money close. I mean, if it's double, then obviously take your payday. But if Prime wants to run a big-time program at some point, he also needs to think about where he can win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That
that's
would
why
probably
Colorado. That's why Colorado has never made sense to me for Deion.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. I was going to lock up Jackson State minus 17.5. I guess it's not an official lock because I do think it would be kind of strange for Jackson State to lose that game and then for Deion to announce his new job.
Oh, like he needs to go and get this dub. Go ahead, lock it up, and
Yeah,
and
like sitting in the post-game press conference, like, yeah, tough game. We're lost. By the way, I'm going to South Florida.
Well, he's doing it Sunday.
Oh, okay.
To kind of build the drama. So
Deion trying to build some hype and drama.
Yeah,
Get out of here.
I mean, he's gonna have it's gonna be his recruitment all over again. He's gonna have hats on the table, and he's gonna make
Get elves on the shelf, Deion.
Yeah. So
the chat wants to know about Prime to Liberty. I don't think Prime's going to take Liberty. I do think Liberty, though, is going to be seen as an absolute springboard job, though, because they pay really well. They're really well funded. The new CUSA is terrible. Like, Liberty should just run through the CUSA every year now. And coaches are going to say, hey, look, Hugh Freeze got Auburn off Liberty. That is going to be a springboard job going forward, I anticipate. But I don't know that Prime's going to take Liberty.
Coach washing.
Basically.
You can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fernelli. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See y'all.